You're listening to Living Free, your podcast for a life full of freedom and magic. I'm your host, Tanja Hirsch, and I hope that every time you listen, you feel a little bit more inspired to follow your intuition and to create a life beyond your wildest dreams. Hello, my loves. Today I have such an amazing interview with my sister Nadine Lee, also known as Tantric Alchemy. I had her on the show in August, so you might already know her. And this time we talk about the relationship between pain and pleasure and why your emotional blocks and your suppressed feelings might block your life force energy. Nadine shares the tools how you can learn to slowly, step by step, unblock these blockages, to feel more pleasure, to feel more creativity, to feel more alive, so you can really thrive in your life and not allow your past to hold you back from the life you truly want to live. It's a really inspiring, deep conversation. And before we dive into today's episode, I have a few announcements to make. The first one, I'm really excited about this. From the 18th to the 20th of March, I will guide a special home retreat called Remember Your Magic. And during this weekend, we will have a full moon ceremony. We will do feminine embodiment practices, yin yoga, yoga nidra, breath work, all around the topic of coming home to yourself and remembering your magic, because I believe in these very overwhelming times that we are in right now, it's more important than ever to really tune in, to take the time to connect to our bodies and not being stuck in our fear and our mind 24/7. And it's very easy to get drawn into this. So this is a break for your nervous system. It's a weekend just for you, for your soul to connect back to your true essence, so you can get out of this weekend from a place of overflow, from a place of feeling connected to yourself and the other women that are joining. And you find the link in the show notes if you feel the calling to join this special weekend. Also, for my Wild Soul retreat in Moorea in August, there's still a few spots available. So if you feel the calling to travel to French Polynesia, to this paradise island, to swim with whales and sharks, and to plant corals with coral gardeners, and to experience the adventure of your lifetime while connecting to your wildness, to your true essence, to the woman that you were born to be and maybe don't have access to right now. This is a week that will change your life forever, and I promise you, you don't want to leave this place. And if you leave, you will leave like a different woman, like a more authentic, truly expressed woman. Also, I have 2 spots left for my one-on-one 6 weeks mentorship called Feminine Embodied. So if you want to work one-on-one in a very sacred container to connect back to your soul, then this is calling your name. And the last thing before we dive into the episode, in my Living Free sister community, we will dive into the topic of inner freedom this month. And you will get a meditation, a feminine embodiment practice, you will receive a full moon ritual, and also a rebirthing breathwork session that goes for 2 hours, guided by my sister Katie Moore. Maybe you've listened to our podcast interview. So it's a very special month to join. And on top of that, I gift every single sister inside the community my 10-day cleanse home retreat for free. This is a 10-day program I designed to cleanse your body, mind, heart and soul, and there's a lot of tools, a lot of recipes. It's a reset program for your whole being. Maybe you already bought my book, The Yogi's Cleanse. This is the retreat to my book, and you receive daily meditations, daily yoga classes, daily recipes, daily Ayurvedic cleansing techniques. There's a lot of beautiful tools in this home retreat that you can do on your own from the comfort of your living room. So if you feel the calling to join us, this month is a really special one. You also get access to all the other months of since September. So there's a lot of content about femininity, about reconnecting to yourself, about pleasure, about all the things not everyone likes to talk about in public. This is the safe space for you to dive into this, to grow and to connect to like-minded sisters. And now we dive right into the interview with Nadine Lee. Welcome back to the Living Free Podcast, Nadine. I'm so excited to dive deep with you today.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me.
I know you've answered this question before, but maybe you forgot. And I'm curious what comes up intuitively in this moment. What does living free mean to you?
Living free. Yeah, I remember you asked me this question. In this moment, I feel it's, just really being free of any conditionings from the past, any stories that we've adopted that aren't truth, and limiting us from really just living our authentic expression and living from our heart. So however that looks is different for everyone.
Beautiful. And when we talked the last time, I think it was August, and we were both at the beginning or just close before we went on this crazy adventure into the unknown, leaving our safe bubble. How did the journey unfold for you when you left Bali and went on this crazy adventure to America?
I mean, it was not just like the typical, I'm just going to go and visit America, just obviously because of all the things that were going on in the world, all the restrictions and all the unknowns around that. It was actually really powerful to face all those fears that were literally fears. And, a lot of what I was worried about was just what the media has hyped up as being like, to be afraid of, and really just showed me that just on another level, just to really trust your intuition and not listen to any external sources at all. I mean, I don't listen to the news or mainstream media, but like it still was there, this layer of like, what is it going to be like to travel now? Like, are they going to be, like forcing us to have an injection on the plane? I just was like going into worst case scenarios. Like I just had no like what to expect. But actually it was fine. Like, I made agreements with the universe of what I am available for and what I'm not available for. And I've never had to do anything against my, beliefs or personal free will. So, I've been traveling since August last year. It's amazing. Yeah, just being an example of that, because like so many people were stifled in fear, like I can't leave where I am, I'm trapped, and I mean, some places are genuinely, like Australia, for example, you can't even get out of, but we're in here at the moment, but that's a pretty extreme case. Yeah, so it was good to just follow my path and not let the fears stop me from doing what I wanted to do.
Yeah, so beautiful. And I know how it feels if this projected fear of others, if you tell your story that you're leaving Bali and you travel to a place where sometimes it feels impossible to go and all these restrictions, the media makes this huge thing out of it. And the people, how they react, for me, it felt like they're putting a coat of fear. They wanted to put this fear above me. And when I was in my power, I could really say, no, thank you. I don't want it. It's yours. But after staying in Germany, after I left Bali, I've been to Germany for 4 months. At the end, I definitely took over some of these layers of fear. And of course, it was also a fear of mine, but also the fear of others. And to walk through this fear was really, really hard.
Yeah, that's powerful.
And Today, I would love to talk with you about the relation between pain and pleasure, because you've been teaching the tantric arts for so long, and I see so many women teaching pleasure, selling it as something you just need a crystal wand or a yoni egg, and you experience all the pleasure in the world, all these different kinds of orgasm. But this is not how it works. Can you dive a little bit into maybe also your experience, but in general, how the pain, especially emotional pain, is related of our capacity to experience pleasure?
Yeah. It's not just like I love that. It's like just get a wand, like literally a magic wand. It's like, oh, this will solve everything for you. Yeah, it's not really like that, just like anything in life. It's not like you just get a magic pill or a magic wand and voila. Like you got to do the work. You got to do the inner journey around that. So I really feel pain and pleasure are really linked in a way of more so, we want to experience more pleasure in our life. But in order to access that, we really have to clear out what's blocking that pleasure. And you can call it pleasure, or even like just another word for it is like life force energy, or, your sexual energy, your eros running through your body. So, there's often a lot of blocks in the way and of that channel being clear so that pleasure can flow through. So that channel is, our body, our vessel. And what usually blocks it is, things like stuck emotions, and, as a result of maybe something that happened, like a trauma or an experience, or just something that you didn't get to fully experience the spectrum of emotion around. And every time, we don't express our emotion or speak our truth, it creates another layer like around our another blockage, I guess you could say, in that channel. So a lot of the time it's like when I do the work with pleasure, and I have a course, Pleasure Principles, and even in Sex Priestess Codes, my other course, like we always go through the body first. And Tantra is really about going through the body first as a gateway for that life force to move through. And it really takes, a journey of like descending into the body and feeling what's there fully. And when you feel, what's there, it's not as scary as it seems, like something that we've, might be avoiding our whole life, but it really just takes courage to feel it and feel it all the way through. And then it literally opens up this like huge amount of spaciousness inside of you for that pleasure to run through. So, for me and personally, I've experienced, the most profound orgasms and just like pleasure running through my body after, for example, having a difficult conversation with a partner, like it's like that, speaking my truth or expressing myself. And it's kind of a bit painful in the moment. It's like, oh, I don't really want to, like this is a hard thing to express. And then once it's expressed, it kind of opens up this spaciousness for pleasure to flow through. And another example is even just in self-pleasure, just on my own, if I'll start self-pleasuring and then like have like an emotion come up, and just feeling that emotion, just allowing it to be there and holding space for it allows me to go deeper into more and more pleasure after that, because there's again like a spaciousness that's created. So, a lot of the time it's like, like there is a thing around, oh, just get a crystal wand and everything will be, all your problems will be solved. But it really is like about going, through that portal of what's blocking the pleasure, and having a guide often in that, because it can be, a lot of stuff can come up, so it's what I hold space for in my containers, and for my clients is like a space to really just feel what's there. And it's just, that emotional body is so linked with our eros. You know, it's like if we're blocking our emotions as women, it's just going to block so much of like that orgasmic potential that wants to flow through, and creative potential as well. It's the exact same energy. So yeah, we have to have like a practice, you know, embodiment practices every day to feel, to check in, to move the energy through our body. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. I agree so much. And I feel like even if we have the tools, even if we have the feminine embodiment practices, sometimes if a huge pain or a huge shadow comes up, we can't really exit it immediately. And I've had this last week. I was in a deep core wound of mine that I thought I had healed already, but it came up and it really blocked my whole everything. I couldn't feel pleasure. I couldn't feel grateful. When I saw a flower, I didn't feel touched like I normally do. I could really feel like this not being able to feel it blocked everything, the whole life force. I didn't feel creative. I didn't feel like I wanted to have sex, nothing. And it was not until I don't know how I did it, but at one point it cracked open and I could feel it. And after I felt free again, and after I could really feel the energy flowing through, and I felt creative again, and I felt when I was eating, I could feel it and I could see the beauty around me again. But is it for you the same, that sometimes you have this access and the energy is flowing and sometimes it gets stuck and you can't, even if you have all the tools, you can't move immediately into the feeling, the pain?
Yeah, for sure. It's like, you know, it's also circumstantial. Like sometimes, you know, maybe you're, like just not in the environment to go into it. So you're, you know, you got to wait until there is spaciousness in your life to actually drop into it, what needs to be felt. You feel safe in that container, like you're at home in a stable environment type thing, you know. And yeah, I feel that for sure. And I used to prolong that process a lot longer when I was younger. You know, I would like feel that stagnation for maybe 5 to 7 days, and feel stuck and stagnant, and just, yeah, it would come out in all these different sideways. And then once I started to explore, you know, more of emotional alchemy and actually access like tools to actually access my emotions in a healthy way, it's now literally like the max that it'll linger there would be like a day, maybe, you know. So it's just like, it's just refining that. And it's like a practice, you know. And it's also just something that is so natural that we did as children. You know, when we were young, we would feel like 1,000 emotions in a day and just move through them very like easily. You know, you watch a young kid and they're just, you know, 1 minute they're happy, 1 minute they're screaming, next minute they're ecstatic, next minute they're angry, you know, and they're not attached to the stories, and they're, you know, they're just feeling and expressing and moving energy constantly through the day. So there's a lot less resistance. So, you know, as we get older, it's really about like also adopting that approach of not getting attached to what's coming up. You know, it's just energy that wants to move. So yeah, there could be a story that evokes an emotion, but, you know, it's the story is just the story. You know, it's just the energy just wants to move, and we need to like detach from it meaning so much. You know, that's a big thing. It's like, because we can just go into a spiral of like of our emotions and just drown in them. And this used to be me. You know, I'm like, yeah, I used to really like dwell in my emotions and stay in them for a long time and use it as almost like a crutch or like a safety net to not like be happy almost, or like to live my highest potential is like, oh no, I'm feeling this, I'm going to hide behind my emotion. So, you know, that's the other extreme. It's like someone that doesn't feel anything, and then once you do, it's like, you know, it can be like just that's all your life is about, is just feeling your emotions. And
yeah, totally. the balance, the dance between the balance of allowing yourself to feel and to express and not numbing, but not also getting drowned in it. And it's a sacred dance, I feel. Sometimes we step one foot in one and then we dance to the other side, and then And what are the tools you teach in your practices that can help to really crack open these layers, that you can dive into the pain, the core wound that caused the block in the first place?
Yeah, I teach like a process, like an inner child journeying process. It's a core one that I'll take my clients through. And it's really just, going into presence, like going into the body, feeling what's present in this moment in the physical body, and then if there's like a pain somewhere, some tension somewhere in the body, going and addressing that part of the body, and then journeying deeper into what the emotion is beneath the pain, the physical pain. And then what's like the story around that? Like, when was the last time that they felt this emotion, and going back to like the first time they ever felt it, and then going into what they needed in that time in their life, so that pattern doesn't keep looping over and over again. Because usually it's just we have these things come up and these like conflicts with others, and like a core theme that keeps arising because it's just an unmet need of our inner child, like something that happened when we were a child and we didn't get what we needed, at that age. So we kind of like always revert back to that age and freeze into that trauma response, essentially, whenever that trigger comes again and again. So, an example is like, maybe when you were younger, you were crying, and like your dad just like said, toughen up, and just walked out of the room and didn't, and that like left this imprint of like, men don't listen to me or don't hold space for me. So every time, you interact with a man and he just walks out, it would trigger that memory of when you're a child and that happens. So what I do is take the client like back to that time in their childhood and give them what they needed back then, and really rewire that belief system that was coming up, that got formed from that experience. And then it can shift, that you won't even attract like men that would do that anymore, because your frequency has shifted, your belief has shifted. So that's something that I really take my clients through, and it's really powerful because it's like going into the actual somatics, like rewiring your nervous system and healing on that level. So it's not just like a mindset thing, like an affirmation just masking over something. It's like feeling what you felt when you were actually at that age and like reliving that experience, so then you can like reclaim that part of you and address it from this mature space as an adult now. And this is the core, I feel, a lot of everything, really, our inner child. We don't address these things, it's kind of like just running the show, like from relationships to business to everything. It's really important to start. I always start my journeys with a process around this.
And it's so powerful, and I think it really changed my life because back in the days I thought, the inner child healing is not for me, that's for traumatized people. I'm not traumatized. I noticed these patterns, and it changed only when I really opened up to my inner child, and I saw I really neglected it for such a long time, and it showed up in all these situations. I had the other way around. For me, it was my mom. And how can people that are listening and they feel like they don't really have done this work, they just get started and they want to feel more connected to their body and to slowly open up, they don't feel ready to dive all the way in, what are tools you can use in your everyday lives that can help you to connect more to your feminine body?
Yeah, so something really simple is dancing. This is very simple. Just create a playlist and dance to like 2 or 3 songs in the morning. Like, get into your body and get moving in a way that's non-linear. Because, a lot of the time we work out and it's like you go to the gym and it's very like linear movements and repetitive movements, whereas like intuitive dance, just put on a song. There's no right or way. There's no routine. Just freeing your energy and moving. And with that also, I would suggest making sound. This is another thing. Like, so breathing and sounding and moving. So dancing and like, letting any sounds that want to come out, and, focusing on your breath. These 3 tools really just help you come into your body fully and come into that presence of, what's happening in your body. And anyone can do that. Anyone has a phone with YouTube. You can just put on any song. You don't need to, nothing fancy. And just in the morning, spend even just one song is enough, like 5 minutes of dancing in the morning. It's really powerful.
Yes, I agree. Thank you for sharing. And I'm curious, in your personal journey, when you went deeper into healing your core wounds, your trauma, your childhood wounds, how did healing these wounds expand into your life, not only on a pleasure level that you were able to experience more pleasure, but also into your business, your relationships, your friendships, your aliveness?
Yeah. I mean, in my business, a big one was just really overcoming, those things around self-expression, so expressing myself was often not like embraced as a child. So, finding my authentic expression, and that's really impacted, how I express through my business and through my art and my creativity, and not worrying about like what people think, or because I came from more like a very rational, like academic background, so it was all about like, the mind and like formulas and things being right or wrong, very black and white. So accessing like creativity and not worrying about like if it's right or wrong, it's like that was a big thing, just to unleash that part of myself. And that's been just so liberating. And and I mean, in relationships, like I think one of the biggest things was just stuff around the father wound, for sure. That was huge. I'm still working on that. There's still pieces that are unraveling, but I've done a fair bit up until this point. And it's really like I've noticed the shift in more significantly this past year in the types of men that I'm attracting now. Very different to the men that I used to attract, which was the men I used to attract, I feel, was coming from more of my wounding, whereas now it's like attracting more healthy masculine and like mature masculine energy. So because I'm not operating from like a girl energy anymore, so that's been, I've noticed that in the men that I'm like connecting with now. So that's powerful just to see shift. I often like to see, like, I think as in relationship, what we can look at is if our ex partner is the same as the people we're attracting now, we haven't actually grown. Whereas if they're a very different archetype, then we know we've grown. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not attracting that archetype anymore. There's nothing wrong with that archetype, but it's just like, it wasn't, I was growing out of that stage, and, we grow and evolve. So we need to, we match a different vibration.
Yeah, so true. So true. Thank you for sharing. So I have one last question I would like to dive in. It's a bit off topic, but I know you're very passionate about it, and you teach a lot about it. Is our original topic that we wanted to dive into, the harmonizing of the masculine and feminine energy, because I think like with the pain and pleasure, it's the sacred dance of sometimes we're more in one energy and then we have to balance out. How is your experience on it, and what are your tips for rebalancing if you feel like you're drifting more into one?
Yeah, I think, well, for me, yeah, it's first creating an awareness around the two energies within. And, we all know we have an inner masculine and feminine. I mean, some people might not know that, like that are listening, but we all have inner masculine, feminine energies. And, as women, we have usually more feminine energy. That's why we're born into a female body. And men have more masculine because they're born into a male body. They have male hormones, So we have both. And it's really about creating an inner dialogue between the two of them and looking at their relationship like you would look at a relationship just like of two people standing in front of you. The exact same thing is going on inside of us. So what is going on? Like, how is that inner masculine side of us relating to the inner feminine side, and how is our inner feminine side relating to our inner masculine side? And what we usually see is often they're not in harmony, So when I first did this, they were very out of harmony. They were even like very different in age. The masculine side of me was a lot more younger, like a lot more immature, because I hadn't looked at it or even, had much awareness around that energy within. So I had to like grow that side of me up. And like my feminine side had to hold space for him basically to grow up. And that's how we evolve. The polarity that's like more unevolved is like, it's not by like shaming it, it's like just holding space for that side of us to evolve and express whatever it wants to express. So creating like a dialogue between the two. What is their relationship nature like? That's a huge thing. And I take my clients through a process around this, like, journaling, dialoguing, having like a conversation, looking at their astrology. We do this in Sex Priestess Codes in the Inner Union module. And then, really just having that awareness and then seeing like how your day is structured, how your week is structured, how, your month, like, is it more mainly your masculine side running the show, or is it your feminine? Like, are they actually in harmony? Like, are they both getting their desires met, both sides of you? And this is really powerful, like looking at it on a practical level, like day to day. So if you're constantly like in your masculine, you might be like one of those people that's just like do. And there's like your schedule is just back to back and there's no time for any breaks or beingness. It's just like constant action. And then if you're more dominant in like that feminine side, maybe it's just too much being and there's not really much action going on. There's just a lot of spaciousness, which is beautiful, but there's also that part of us that wants to express and create and like ground things into reality, through business or our creativity or whatever it is, how we want to express. So you might need to work on, activating a bit more of your fire, like your yang energy as a woman. And, there's many different ways you can do that, but it really is having awareness first and having like an intention to explore that side of you. And, actionable things like, I think one of the biggest things for women who have like an underdeveloped masculine, I see this a lot, is having like discipline is a big thing, and routine, and some sort of structure in your life, because that's the masculine energy, and you can create and flow so much more in your feminine when you do have some sort of structure in your life and discipline. And these are big things, and I think a lot of women are operating in their masculine, but it's probably more of, if they're in their masculine, they're probably more in the unhealthy masculine, I see. Whereas it's that, like do, like there's too much structure, it's too rigid. So yeah, it's either one or the other I see with clients, but and women I work with. But it's just really looking at where you can, create more balance between those two polarities within yourself. Yeah.
And you said one tip, you can balance in more into the masculine to have the structure so the feminine can flow. If someone is more in the wounded or unhealed masculine and has a schedule and is always rushing, is always wants to do everything on their own, and I work with a lot of women like that, how would you help them to get more into the beingness, into the flow, into the feminine, the trusting?
Yeah, so that's why I really work with the menstrual cycle. So getting women in touch with their menstrual cycle and understanding, like that we are cyclical beings. And when we're in our menstrual phase, when we're bleeding, that's when we're really should be going into our yin energy. So, that's the time to take a day or two off completely and just go into your yin energy and rest. Take some time to rest. 1 or 2 days of the month is not going to change anything in your in your schedule. It's actually going to enhance your creativity and your productivity. So even if you're working in like a corporate job, when I used to work in corporate, I would just take the first day off every month if it fell on a weekday, and I just had an agreement with my boss, and like I just kind of explained to him, like, if you want me to be a good employee, I need this day off. And luckily, he was awesome. So he's like, okay, whatever you need to do. So, because he saw the benefit. Like if I was there and I was bleeding, I would be pissed and I would not be working.
Normal. Should be normal one day. Every woman should have the right to have 1 day off a month because of the cycle. That would be such an improvement.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and like that's the beauty of, I guess, when you do start to look at your menstrual cycle, usually if women are working in like a corporation type thing that doesn't allow for that, it starts to awaken this like feminine side of them and this fire, like, well, maybe this isn't in alignment anymore, working like a man 24/7 and not having breaks. So maybe I need to empower myself and find a career that supports that, or like something that nourishes me on a deeper level. So when you start to really tap into this, into your menstrual cycle, it's obviously connecting you to that cyclical nature, into your feminine, but it's also a lot of the time it will change your life completely, like how you're relating to your work, your relationships, because you're going to be not okay with this like constant yang energy anymore. It's like you'll feel the power of the yin when you're bleeding. And I love, that's like one of my foundation things to take women through is their menstrual cycle. Always looking at that, what's going on there.
So valuable. Thank you so much for sharing. For me, it was also one of the biggest game changers. And when I started doing that and also expressed my truth, what was going on inside, I never had menstrual pain anymore. And I used to have so much pain. I almost couldn't stand up anymore. I was white in my face. I was sweating. I had 1 hour it felt like giving birth. It was so intense. I couldn't do anything. And I don't have that anymore since I really honored my cycle and didn't force myself to work all the time and to function, because no one does, no woman does.
Yeah. Well,
how is your inner union at the moment, the balance between your inner masculine and feminine?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, at the moment I feel there's a bit of a conflict with, like I was sharing to you before this, like wanting to find a home, like that feminine side of me, just wants to be at home and like fully like creating my nest. But then life is kind of like moving me around a lot. And my masculine loves that, like the masculine side of me loves movement and travel and just like, being in all these different places. But the feminine side is like, oh my God, I just want to like chill and just not move for at least like 3 to 6 months. But I'm just listening to life, and life is like, it's when I resist that creates more tension between the two. But when I'm just like surrendering to what life is, what's happening, then there's more harmony. So, and I'm just like, okay, how do I get my needs met for the feminine? It's like I always stay in beautiful spaces that feel like home, and I make it my home, you know, wherever I go. I'm a Cancerian sun, so it's like that's like the crab, you know, like we take our home everywhere. It's like literally what I do. Like make it like literally I've been here for 10 years, even though I've been here for like a month, but I really set up my spaces like that it's like mine. So that nourishes my feminine on that level. And then it's like, yeah, I need that to feel creative and inspired. So yeah, that there's that's the main kind of, I think, conflict going on within the two.
I feel you. I'm exactly the same. I even if I just stay for a weekend, I still set up my space and to make it my place, not a foreign home.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nadine. I have one last question, and you've also answered it before. If you could quantum leap back into the past and you could tell your younger self something you know today that would have helped you along your journey, what would you tell young Nadine?
Just, I would tell her to trust the divine timing of everything. And yeah, I think that's probably the main thing, actually. I don't know if that's what I shared last time.
I can't remember too.
I can't remember, but maybe.
Thank you so much. I sometimes still need to hear that.
Yeah.
Big
Telling
one.
myself that as well right now.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.